Hey, what's up guys, my name is Cherno and welcome to episode 124 of Game Programming. So last time we finished up the UI and the buttons and whatnot, and we actually had our own image inside the button, this little kind of thing here, and we did some image brightness stuff and whatever, and we've got a pretty good setup going on for the UI right now, up to the point where I can pretty much call it complete, except for the fact that when we clicked over on this panel, it actually continued to shoot. Of course, we put in something to stop that over here, and that was this if mouse get x is greater than 660, then whatever. We put in this whole system to stop that and whatnot. But I asked you guys if you wanted me to do it properly, you know, basically by converting this into like a kind of layered game with layers and with events. And you guys said yes, so I made a standalone video for that. It's called like Event System and Dispatcher or something. I don't know what it's called, but there'll be a link to that video in the description, so I highly recommend you watch that video before you go ahead and watch this one, because that one is going to explain how the entire event system works, okay? And that video, of course, will be kind of the preface to this video, because in this video, all we're going to do is we're going to kind of copy the code from that other video, from that example that I made, and integrate it into Rain. So that's kind of the idea, okay? Speaking of which, this game is called Rain, so we probably have some kind of rain effect going on. I think that'll be good. So if you guys want to see that, just leave a comment below, and we'll get around to that. But anyway, so when I said copy, I literally meant copy, because I've got basically both folders open right now, and I'm going to be copying them. So layers we want, right? Because that has like our base kind of layer configuration, and we want events. We don't really need core. This is from the other video, by the way. And this is also on GitHub, yeah, we don't really need core, but we do want events and layers. So I'm just going to copy that, and we can actually just put it right on into here, okay? Layers, I'm actually going to move into graphics though. That's the only change I'm going to make. If we come back here, right click, hit refresh, or we can hit F5 as well with that selected, we will see our new code in the project. So we've got like a bunch of errors here, which is fine. So we have to basically reconfigure all this stuff. Event listener, we're going to have to re-import that. Event, we should probably just go through every file right now, fix up the package declarations if you have your mouse over the error, and select change package declaration to, well, that one. Then it should work out. Lovely. All right. And yes, this will take a bit of time, unfortunately. Mouse press, mouse. So this is just for mouse events so far. We'll hook in some key events and whatnot in the future. So we're kind of making some engine changes here that are probably going to be for the better, because as I told you guys, I want to kind of take this game to the next level, and I want to make it a game that we can pretty much release, like as in we want to meet that quality. So that's why I'm doing all this stuff. So let's see, what do we need to import right now? We want to import, what are we trying to import though? It would be good if it told me, because I don't know. So event type is probably what we want. Not the spawner type. We shouldn't need that. Yeah, there we go. Not sure why Eclipse was asking us for that. I'm just hitting Control-Shift-O, by the way, to bring up that organize imports dialog. All right. Is that it? That's it. Okay, cool. No more errors. So let's integrate everything to use layers. So the way this is going to work is we're going to basically go to our level class right now, and we're going to make it so that level extends layer. Okay, because level is going to be a layer. We don't really have a layer stack right now, but we'll set that up in a minute. So that'll be in our game class, it looks like. So anyway, you can see nothing's basically changed. If I actually go into layer though, I want to see what kind of stuff we have in layer that we should be overriding. So there's on update, there's on render, so I'll change these to render and update to match our kind of convention. On event, I guess I will just leave as on event, because if I change it to event, that just looks kind of weird. Public body event. We'll leave it as on event. Okay, cool. So if we go to render, we want screen, of course, to be in here instead of graphics G. And update, I think, is pretty much the same. Cool. So now we should be getting, one way to check is if you look at this, you should be seeing, this is the player. you should be seeing, where's update? You should be seeing like a green arrow that just basically is Eclipse telling you that you're overriding something, and you should see the same for render. If you don't, like for example we don't, that's a problem. So that's because our render method takes in like X scroll and Y scroll, which is a bit weird. So let's not make it do that. Let's quickly just make a public void set scroll, because I'm pretty sure we've got something like that anyway, don't we? X scroll, Y scroll, do we not have that? Probably not. Well, we do now. So we'll make a private int X scroll, Y scroll. This game really needs some refactoring, to be honest. Obviously, it's been 3 years since I started it, so I do things a lot differently now, but I'm a much better programmer now than I was back then. But anyway, regardless of that, we will continue going on with this stuff. Okay, so, and I'll kind of, I guess slowly over time we'll be refactoring this stuff. I'm not gonna spend like 10 episodes now rewriting everything or anything like that, but we're going to kind of just slowly, gradually, you know, little things like this, just kind of changing it up a bit. So basically all that's changed is we just have to call one extra method here. And there we go. Okay, and let's just double check that the game is still working as expected, and it is great. So now let's close all these event classes. Now we need to hook up our event system into our kind of window class, which is really just this class, because you can see that we're doing everything like adding key listeners, adding mouse listeners, and all of that stuff into here. You know, the frames, for example, we're doing all that stuff in this class, so that's why we have to kind of make it work with that. So what we're going to do is let's see. So we've got the layer, so we'll have to make a layer stack. So private list layer, we'll call it layer stack equals new array list layer. I'll import that. Make sure you import the one that's in util, not AWT. We're not looking for the GUI version of the list, we're looking for the actual data structure. So layer stack is our layer stack, which is great. So every time we add a layer, let's make a, let's just quickly make a public void add layer, layer stack.add layer, okay? So what we'll do is, we've got a key listener already, that's our keyboard, and we've got our mouse. So if we actually, if you guys were to go back to the other video and see how it worked, all we did is we essentially made an event, and when we made an event, we called an onEvent method, which basically looped through everything and handled it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to make it so that game actually implements the event listener, which might be a bit weird because layers, by the way, do that, as you can see. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to actually make it so that mouse requires, when we make the mouse public, so basically we don't really need any of this to be static anymore. But when we make this, we're going to make it so that this takes in an event listener, because we want to hook up this mouse into an event listener, because the event listener is where it's going to send all the events, right? Hopefully this is making sense. So public event listener, event listener. All right, we'll hook this up, and then when we have all this, we'll have to basically sort them out there. So we'll add this, and we'll add the listeners. All right, so let's quickly set it up for the mouse, right? We're kind of going to, so we are changing this system. I'll still keep the static stuff around just in case we need them, but I'll probably start changing them up, to be honest. So when we move, we want to create a new mouse move event, mouse moved event. e.getX, e.getY, and dragged is false. And then what we want to do is, by the event listener is here, we're going to call event listener dot on event with the event here. All right, pretty simple stuff. So this obviously needs to implement on event. I'll pop it right over here, public void on event. Okay, because what this is going to do is just basically send it down the layer stack. Now, events go down the layer stack in reverse order. So what we need to do is we need to say for int I equals basically the last thing in the layer stack, which will be layer stack dot get, oh, rather layer stack dot size -1, that's the last element. I is greater than or equal to 0, so it goes all the way to the beginning of the layer stack, and then I minus minus. Okay, so that's basically going to iterate through the layer stack, but in reverse. So from the end to the beginning, rather than from the beginning to the end. All we have to do here is say layer stack dot get I dot on event, because obviously, because obviously every layer is an event listener. Okay, cool. Anyway, so now we should be getting events. So if we go into like, say the level, you would see that the level, so the level extends layer. So we need to basically override that on event method. I think we just did. No, we didn't. So we've got sets. Where's update? We'll do it right after update. How about that? Public void on events. Okay. Now this is where the events get received. So basically what we usually want to do is just basically raise that event for every single entity. Okay. And then the entity can choose what to do with the event. Okay. We definitely don't want to block events or anything like that in this case. But that's kind of how it works right now. So anyway, there is two different things that I should mention though in the event thing. There's an event listener and there's an event handler. Okay, an event handler is something that actually handles the event. This returns a boolean, and this could stop the dispatcher from taking place. But remember, we're not really talking about this. We're not really talking about the event dispatcher right now at all. It's not actually a thing. An event dispatcher is something that you use to just dispatch events when you're actually inside an on-event thing. Okay, that's all you do. That's kind of the endpoint solution, right? We're kind of still in the middle of things because level really probably won't do too much with on-event, but we do want to send it to things like the player. Okay, so that being said, yeah, like the player is actually a really good example of where we want to send events to. Like we probably don't want to send events to entities, for example. That wouldn't really make too much sense. We could do that though, right? We could do that in situations where we want the enemies to react to players' events, which is a bit weird. Like you might not do that. It doesn't really make too much sense to do that because events right now, at least, are just kind of user input style things. In the future, they could be anything, like literally anything. But right now, they're just user input things, so it doesn't make too much sense to do that. But anyway, we can get, I don't know why this is called get player. If it turns a list, it should be called get players. But anyway, we can get the client player, which is the current player. And we can send an event there. Because really, again, if we are talking about a multiplayer scenario, which is why we've got like the get client player here, really the client player is the only one who raises events. Because right now, events are input events, and they get raised, they should get sent to the client player. So what we'll do is we'll say get client player dot on event. So the player is going to implement the event listener interface, which is going to add, we're going to add that on event. Gonna pop it right before update. And there we go. So now we can set up an event dispatcher and we can do things like shoot and whatnot when things happen, which is great. So if we go back to mouse real quick, I'm just going to finish making events for everything. So dragged is going to be the same, but with true. Mouse pressed is going to be mouse pressed event. Okay, and I believe that just takes in int boolean. So oh, sorry, it doesn't take in int boolean. It takes in int. So the button I think is first. Let's see. The button is first, and then the coordinates. So we'll take in the button, which is e.getButton, and then we'll take in the things. This is actually additional information as well. I mean, we did have it before. You would have to call two methods. You would have to call the get mouse button and the get x and get y. but now we kind of have it all in that event, which is nice. And then released, of course, we'll do this exact same thing, except it's going to be a mouse released event. Okay, I think that's it, isn't it? That sounds like it's it. You know, we would have other events such as focus lost, focus, what's the opposite of focus lost? Focused? I don't know. Anyway, focus lost, focus gained, whatever. We would have events for that if we had focus listeners as well. That's not a common thing to do in Java and in games in general. But yeah, so we could raise events for that as well. Okay, cool. Anyway, so now that we've done that, we should be able to capture events already in the player class already. Okay, the final thing we haven't done is set up a proper rendering system for events. So right now we have this level.setScroll stuff, and we kind of do all this stuff. Level.render this shouldn't be called anymore. Okay, what should happen is this is where we render layers. Okay, so we'll basically say for each layer, layer stack dot size. I will basically just call layer stack dot get I dot render screen. Okay, and then when we make the level up the top here, we'll actually, or we set it to level spawn, whatever. We'll just basically say add layer level. Okay, and we don't need to update anymore either. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to say update layers here, and we're basically just going to change this to update. Okay, done. So if we're on the game now, we should hopefully be at the same situation as we are now, and we are, which is good. So now we need to change, the only thing we need to change is we need to see first of all if players get events correctly. So if we go to player, the best way to see any of this really is just to print out the current event. So if we just print out the event, we'll get the name of the event. You can see we get a ton of mouse moved events. We get mouse press, mouse release events when we actually press and release, like over here, for example, press released, right? We get all that stuff, which is good. So it's working. That's basically the main thing. This is where event dispatcher comes in. So we're going to say event dispatcher, dispatcher equals new event dispatcher event. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to basically write a bunch of events for all these things. So public void on mouse move. Do we really need to handle that too much, do we? Really, we just want mouse pressed. So mouse pressed event E, and we want mouse released. I think that's probably about it, to be honest. Okay, we'll import those. These should be booleans, by the way. Okay, and we'll just return false right now. Okay, cool. So what we want to do right now is just call dispatcher.dispatch. So the type will be event.type.mouse pressed, right? The handle for that is going to be a lambda, and it's going to be just a mouse pressed event. We're going to cast it to that. And what was I calling? I was calling the onMouse pressed method. So onMouse pressed E. Is that the syntax? I don't even know. Too many semicolons, first of all. That's what I meant, I think. Or is that what I meant? I haven't written lambdas in Java in a while. That's what I meant, I think. This is great. Oh, okay, that was right. I just have to change my project compliance to JRE8. Well, guys, looks like we're finally making the switch into Java 8. Okay, cannot redeclare. Is it just... It's that, isn't it? Is it? Okay, I'm going to quickly see what I did before, because I don't do lambdas in Java too often. Where would I have done that? I would have done that in example layer in the other project. Oh, close. So event. Okay, we'll rename to E. Cool. That was close. Alright, so we've got the mouse pressed event, and now we'll do the mouse released event. Released event. Okay, and now we should have everything working pretty well. What's wrong with you, I wonder? Yeah, you totally should be though. Did I screw up on mouse released? Yeah, it's not a thing. Okay, cool. There we go. So lambdas are just basically a shorter way of writing like an inner class, basically. So the alternative would have been to do something like new event handler and then call like, you know, return on mouse pressed event. That's exactly the same code. Okay. And then you'd have to cast it. Yeah, that's the same thing, except our system is way cooler. All right, cool. There we go. So now that we've done that, we should be able to basically handle all that stuff pretty easily. So we've got this get button, fire rate stuff. So update shooting is kind of something that we don't really need to do anymore. Okay, because now we can handle this stuff in the event system. So if I literally cut this update shooting and put it onto on mouse pressed, you know, we'll just return false or whatever. If that's the case, we don't need to do the get button anymore. This comes from the event now, so it's going to be e.getButton equals, we'll do like mouse event dot button 1, I guess. I was hoping for something like left button, but I guess we get what we get. That's the left mouse button, right? I hope so. Button 1, whatever that means. What does that even equal to? 1. Okay, so it's the same thing as what we had before. What? Oh, excuse me. Okay, so fire rate, yeah, we got that stuff going on. Now, if this happens, we might want to return true. Okay, that means that we've totally handled the event. Whoops, we've totally handled the event, and we don't want anyone else to handle it anymore. Okay, otherwise we'll just return false. Okay, cool. And if this happens, we can return false pretty much straight away. We probably don't even have to do that anymore, to be honest. Okay, cool. So I'll get rid of, see, mouse released really doesn't even need to be a thing anymore. It probably doesn't, at least. So we'll get rid of update shooting. We can get rid of it here, and if we launch this, we should still be able to shoot. And as you can see, we can. However, I don't think we can hold the mouse down anymore. Looks like we can only, we can't kind of leave it pressed. We have to keep clicking on it, which is a bit annoying. So what do we have before? Let's see. So first of all, it looks like that event isn't going to get raised as long as the mouse is pressed, only when it gets pressed. Okay? So the way that you can do something like that is pretty simple. We basically have something in player that's like private boolean shooting equals false. If let's see, where are we? So on mouse pressed, if this is true, we simply set shooting equal to true. Over here, if the button is the correct button, and we release it, we'll set shooting equal to false, and we'll return true. And that should be about it. So now this code, which is really the juicy part, we can basically just put into the update loop. So we can still have something like update shooting or something. Private void update shooting, and of course we can say that if not shooting, return. Okay, there we go. So if we run that, we should be able to shoot. As you can see, we totally can, and we're shooting a lot, shooting very quickly. And I assume that that's because of that fire rate. So, one thing we should say is that, yeah, we definitely don't want to be shooting. So this and fire rate stuff, don't really care about that. We could say something like, if fire rate, so if shooting or fire rate is greater than 0, then we'll return. Because we don't really need to be doing anything like that. Okay, and then we've got our back. We're back to our kind of old self with the event system. Okay, cool. So anyway, that's pretty much gonna wrap up this episode. I don't want to make this one too long, but that is kind of the beginning of the refactoring for, wow, look at those imports, crazy. That's basically the beginning of the refactoring for the event system. Next time we're going to refactor the UI stuff. So what I mean by that is we've got the UI buttons and UI panels really, which are going to have event listeners. And of course we're going to be able to block events based on where, like, you know, basically whether or not the event happened on that certain layer and whatnot. And we're going to transform UI panels and the entire UI manager system into basically a UI layer. So we'll bring up that concept, and overall it should be definitely pretty cool. Now, if you guys do enjoy this series, then the best way to support it would be on Patreon. So I do have a Patreon account. It's patreon.com/the Cherno. Here it is right over here. You can essentially pledge a given amount, and the best thing you can really do is pledge $5 or more, because if you do, you'll get access to all of the source code for this game programming series on GitHub via a private repository. So you'll have all of the code for this game programming series, as well as all the differences between commits, because every episode I make a new commit, and you'll be able to compare the difference of what I've changed episode per episode. Which is pretty cool, I think. So anyway, if you're interested in that, you can of course click the link in the description and support me on Patreon. That also ensures that I make more videos as well, which is always a good thing. But other than that, if you did enjoy, hit the like button, and I will see you guys next time as we continue making rain. Goodbye.